Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced his resignation and will step down as leader of the ruling Liberal Party once his replacement has been chosen. And Mr Trudeau faced rising discontent within his own party after the high-profile cabinet resignation of his finance minister. Recent polling shows a significant drop in popularity for the ruling Liberal Party, mostly due to the country's housing affordability crisis and the rising cost of living. The Canadian Prime Minister says he would not be able to lead the Liberal Party due to internal battles.
As you all know, I am a fighter, and I am not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one is. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
The son of former Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, 44-year-old Justin was voted into office 9 years ago. His election victory in 2015 came after nearly a decade of Conservative Party rule. He promised to lead Canada into a new progressive era.
You want a government with a vision and an agenda for this country that is positive and ambitious and hopeful. Well, my friends, I promise you tonight that I will lead that government.
After consolidating power with election victories in 2019 and 2021, Justin Trudeau's popularity began to slip. Pressure mounted from rising inflation, and his approval rating hit just 22% in late 2024. Those numbers resulted in increasing discontent from members of his own party. His deputy and finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, resigned from cabinet in December. She was openly critical of Mr Trudeau's handling of the economy in the face of steep tariffs threatened by incoming US President Donald Trump. Parliament has now been suspended until the end of March to allow for a Liberal Party leadership race. Attention is now turning to who will replace Justin Trudeau. One of the top contenders is Ms Freeland. She's a high-profile MP, having served as Foreign Affairs Minister before taking on the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance portfolios before abruptly resigning. Another is former Governor of the Bank of Canada, Mark Carney. He most recently served as a special advisor to Mr Trudeau. A host of MPs could also push for the top job as the Liberal Party attempts to hold on to power in the face of increased voter dissatisfaction. Well, let's get more now on the Canadian Prime Minister's resignation with political analyst and Professor of Political Science at Dalhousie University, Turnbull, who joins us now from Ottawa. Laurie, thank you for your time. Firstly, your reaction to this resignation and how it's being received by the Canadian public.
I think it's not a surprise to people. There has been so much pressure on the Prime Minister to step aside from his own party, and the opposition parties have been indicating they will vote non-confidence in the government as soon as they can. And so I think people were kind of waiting to see whether over the holiday the Prime Minister would come to this conclusion, and now he has. And so I think attention is quickly turning to who might replace him and what that process might look like over the next couple of months. Yeah, is that going to be a fast and smooth process or quite otherwise? I think it's going to be fast. I'm not sure it's going to be smooth because they don't have much time. They have to, they only have again until roughly the end of March where they can prorogue Parliament and get this all sorted out. They have to come back at the end of March to Parliament so that that they can vote on supply, so that public servants get paid and people get their pensions and things like that. And so it's almost like the party is really kind of at the end of the line here. This is a very short amount of time for the party to rebrand itself under a new leader. And so it'll be interesting to see what kind of process they select between now and then, because I think there would have been no point in pushing Justin Trudeau out if they weren't going to put themselves in a better spot. He had been unpopular with voters. Can you tell us about the big shifts we saw there? I mean, I think when he came to the position of leader almost 10 years ago, it was almost 12 years ago. It was almost like a savior. He came in at the Liberals' worst time and moved them from being a third-place party to the first-place party with a big majority government. But then after that, you could see how his popularity started to kind of come down a little bit. Disagreements with cabinet ministers, issues around ethics and conflict of interest and things like that he seemed to bring on himself. He never got a majority government after that first one. And so it seemed just like his stock was going down over and over again. COVID, it seemed like many political leaders, his popularity shot up. But then after COVID, there was a sense in which he had started to use more wedge-style rhetoric. He had become more polarizing. It seemed to me that at that point, the kind of the affordability crisis that took hold after COVID, the Prime Minister was late to get to the point that he was addressing that. By the time he did, people weren't listening to him as much. And of course, there's voter fatigue. These people have been in government for almost 10 years now. People are going to look around for somebody else.
So this replacement process, I mean, it's going to be taking place when Trump takes office in a couple of weeks. Is that a worry?
Yes, because Trump is threatening tariffs, 25% tariffs on anything coming in from Canada, which would completely disrupt the relationship between Canada and the US and also really destabilize the Canadian economy, our supply chain, our industries. We're going to have to think a big picture about how we reorganize ourselves in the event that these tariffs come on and they last. And I think for that reason, even though Prime Minister Trudeau is going to stay on until they choose a new leader and then he'll move aside, he's not going to be a lame duck prime minister. I mean, sometimes that's what happens when somebody is kind of left there in the last days as the party moves on. But he is in a position where Canada is having these incredibly pivotal conversations about where we're going from here. And so decisions will have to be made, not with Parliament, they're not meeting, but the prime minister is not going to be in a position where he can just kind of let things go and kind of keep the trains running. That's not the situation we're in.
Laurie, would you say that Justin Trudeau has caused damage to his party by holding on for so long?
Yes, absolutely. There's hardly any time for the next leader to situate themselves and to redefine the party. There's no opportunity for the next leader to redefine the party. It's almost like as soon as they get in there, they're going to have to go to election right away. Again, because of the timing of things, because the party is going to have to go back and meet the House in order to vote on supply. And so it's not necessarily that Justin Trudeau intended these particular dates and moments and this really hard deadline that they've gotten no control over. But at the same time, the writing has been on the wall for a long time, and he could have taken note of that earlier and given the party a bit more time to redefine itself. And now it's up against a wall.
Yeah, so I mean, do you think there is enough time, for things to be turned around in time for polling day so that voters feel they have a real choice?
I mean, there's a lot of people who obviously do not like Justin Trudeau, but there are a lot of people who don't like Pierre Poilievre either. And he's the leader of the Conservative Party who, by all accounts, is about to become prime minister. And so there's a world where if the Liberals put up a different leader who takes a different approach, who addresses some of the things that people think that Justin Trudeau did not tackle in the right way, there's a sense in which perhaps some of the people who feel now politically orphaned could find a place to park their vote. But that's a big if. That's assuming that the Liberals choose the person who's going to be able to harness that energy and be able to communicate that before it's too late.